Dining inside the iconic castle at Disney's Magic Kingdom is a dream come true for every child. But what about for adults? Find out today on Walt Disney World Adults Only. Welcome to Royal Highnesses, I'm Dan and you're watching Walt Disney World Adults Only. Today we're talking about Cinderella's Royal Table. Yes, the signature fine dining experience inside Cinderella's castle. As you can imagine, dining inside the castle is very special indeed. And for those who don't know, this is a character dining experience as well. It is pricey for sure, but is this experience worth the money? I'll be giving you the overview as well as explaining how this experience has been modified to allow for the phased reopening following COVID. And then I'm going to be joined by Taylor, Jackie, Leanne and Natalie, who will each tell us about their experiences dining at this restaurant. Before we start though, tell me in the comments below, have you dined at Cinderella's Royal Table and what was your experience there? So, Cinderella's Royal Table. You will not find a more magical place to dine in the whole of Walt Disney World. You'll be dining inside the castle. Yes, the actual castle. This is a super popular restaurant, mainly for families I guess, but what Disney loving adult would turn down the chance to eat inside Cinderella's castle? This is classed as a signature fine dining experience, and when the Disney dining plan is being offered, this will cost you 2 table service credits per person. If paying out of pocket, this one isn't cheap. Pre-COVID, breakfast here was around $62 per person and lunch and dinner was around $75 per person. It should be noted though that these are fixed price meals. Currently, breakfast isn't being offered and lunch and dinner will cost you $62 per person. So there is currently a price reduction, but there are 5 very important people who are currently missing. In usual times, you will get to meet 5 princesses: Cinderella, Snow White, Princess Ariel, Princess Jasmine and Princess Aurora. For now, the princesses are not in attendance for photos and autographs. You may find one princess here, but she will be socially distancing and will not be coming up close to sign autographs and to pose for photos. Cinderella usually greets diners as they arrive in the waiting area with a photo pass photographer present. This photographer also has the magic available. If you don't know about the magic, please check out Courtney's video on Memory Maker. I will put a link to this video in the description below. The other 4 princesses, they make their way around the dining room greeting diners at their tables. Now breakfast here is super expensive. I would guess that this is the most expensive breakfast in the whole of Walt Disney World. But breakfast inside the castle with 5 princesses, you aren't paying for the food. That said, there are some great items on the breakfast menu here. Royal avocado toast, beef tenderloin and egg, caramel apple stuffed French toast, baked quiche, plus you get a plate of pastries to share as well. Lunch and dinner is a 3-course affair for a fixed price. Appetizers here are typically a choice of soup of the day, a salad of some kind, or a charcuterie plate. Entrees are a pork shank, some kind of surf and turf, a beef fillet with scallops or with prawns, a pan-seared chicken, a salad, a vegetarian couscous, or the fish of the day. It's quite standard types of entree, but they change ever so slightly, ever so often. The desserts here seem to vary less, with the Jack and Gus cheesecake, the Clock Strikes 12 chocolate mousse, a cake of some kind, and a sorbet option. This restaurant has a selection of wines and beers, as well as a few Bellini, Mimosa, Sangria type drinks as well. They also do a champagne flight with 3 pours of champagne for a very reasonable $18. Historically, the price here has included tax and gratuity as well. Now the price here is a lot for sure, but the detail and theming inside the castle is simply astonishing. You enter the majestic grand hall and ascend a spiral staircase to the banquet hall above. Then, dine in a storybook setting surrounded by soaring stone archways, majestic medieval flags and spectacular stained glass windows overlooking Fantasyland. Just so many things to look at and to see. And if you time things right, you could be inside the castle during the nighttime fireworks show. There aren't too many window seats, and whilst nothing is guaranteed, there is absolutely no harm in asking if you can have a window seat. You may have to wait slightly longer for your table though. From an adult-only perspective, this place is a family place and you should go expecting to see a lot of kids here. So, is this a good place for an adult-only trip? Well, I will leave that for you to judge, but dining inside Cinderella's castle is a magical experience for everyone of any age. In terms of reservations, despite the hefty price tag, this one books up so fast. 180 days in advance during normal times and 60 days during COVID times is when you need to get that booking. So that brings us to the end of the overview. You won't find princesses like this in a castle like this anywhere else in Walt Disney World. Although saying that, Akershus also has princesses over in the Norway Pavilion at Epcot, but this is the castle. So, any questions so far, please ask them in the comments below. Now for our experience. I have dined here, twice in fact, but I'll give you my experiences at the end. First, let us start with Natalie, our queen of character dining. You've been here for breakfast, right Natalie?
That's right, Dan. I visited twice, in fact. The first time in 2019, and I enjoyed it so much, I visited again on my next trip in 2020. I really enjoy Cinderella's Royal Table. I think it's more than just a restaurant. I think it's an entire experience, and I think that's what really makes Cinderella's Royal Table. Where else can you go inside Cinderella's castle, meet the princesses, and enjoy some really good views and really good food? So I've been twice for breakfast, and both times I got to share this wonderful experience with my mum, and we both really enjoyed it. Some great mother-daughter time. The food we found was really good. I had the French toast, which was amazing, with some nice coffee and the little pastries they put on the table as well there. The first time I went in 2019, we were lucky enough to get a seat by the windows overlooking Fantasyland and the carousel, which was really fun to watch as the park opened and people began to explore. For my second visit, we were seated more in the centre of the restaurant, which was good to be able to see most of the restaurant itself, but the views weren't as good, and I found that the characters were coming up behind us, which reduced the experience a little bit in my opinion. The characters themselves are really good, perfectly in character. You get to get some nice interaction with them, take some really good photos as well. I really enjoyed the food. It was all done exactly as I would have liked it, and the service was great. My server was really lovely both times, and really helped to make it an even better experience overall. At my second visit, we actually missed Cinderella before you go up into the restaurant, which we were quite saddened about. However, before we even got a chance to tell anybody, they found out what had happened, and in that Disney magic, we went back downstairs and had a whole interaction with just myself and my mum and Cinderella. It was great. I would definitely go again to Cinderella's Royal Table, but I think I would make sure to try and request a window seat so I can look over Fantasyland. That made it a bit better for me. I would also like to try Cinderella's Royal Table for dinner, especially if they started offering the fireworks package again. I'd like to see the experience at night time and see how it changes, and the menu looks really good too. Overall, I would go again. Now, I know Jackie went on her last trip, which was a solo trip. I can only imagine it was a bit of an adventure doing character dining on a solo trip. Tell me, Jackie, how was it?
Thanks, Natalie. Yes, I dined here on my last trip when I traveled solo. It was a little over a year ago now. I chose to have breakfast here on my last day of that trip. It was a spur of the moment decision. I saw that there was availability when checking the MDE app the night before. I thought it was a great way to start my last day at Disney and use up some extra table service credits on the dining plan. I'm not usually a big breakfast person, but who doesn't want to meet the princesses? I had the first reservation of the day, so I was able to get in the Magic Kingdom early and get some sweet magic and castle shots before my reservation. As a solo traveler, I felt no differently than any of the other guests that were seated around me. The server was fantastic and attentive, and the princesses never made me feel odd. The only downside of solo travel is having to get selfies with the princesses. Not that I'm complaining. I got the steak and eggs that was served with a side of broccoli. It was good, but not 2 table service credits good. All the breakfast started with a side of pastries and muffins. My wonderful server suggested that I box up the extras after my meal to have for breakfast the following morning. This came in handy when I had to be up at 6 a.m. to catch the Magical Express. I don't see myself dining here again for 2 reasons. First, I think I'd enjoy the meal much more if I had family and friends with me to share in the experience. And second, right now, there are no character interactions other than Cinderella sweeping in and out of the room. Sadly, I'll have to give CRT a pass. So it's definitely an experience for sure. Did you enjoy your visit, Leanne?
Thanks, Jackie. I did enjoy it here. Cinderella's Royal Table. It's somewhere I think everybody needs to dine at least once. I dined here in 2016. Now, I love the location. As far as Disney restaurants go, I don't think you can beat Cinderella's Royal Table for its location. The atmosphere here is great, especially around firework time. For all the windows are very small and there's only very few of them, you can still feel the atmosphere outside while you're inside eating. If you are lucky enough to be near one of the windows, you can see outside to Prince Charming's carousel too. So, back in 2016, when we arrived to check in, we was ushered into the grand hall where we got to meet Cinderella. Once you had your photo taken, you then sat down and waited to be called for your table. In true princess style, of course there's a spiral staircase. There is an elevator if anyone needs it. Once we were seated, our waiter brought us a wand and a wishing star, or if you was a man, they did bring you a sword. That was for the wishing ceremony, which 21-year-old me absolutely loved. I thought it was adorable. Princesses walked round, taking photos, signing autographs. There was no feeling rushed while you was with the princesses. I think the experience here really is one of a kind. Now, here's where I think is the sad part. Cinderella's Royal Table is 2 table service credits if you're on the dining plan. And I think it's a little bit steep when you consider the food that you get. I wouldn't say the food is bad, but it's not great. I think when you're paying so much or using so many dining credits, the food should be a little bit of a higher standard. For starter or appetizer, there was a choice of 3. A salad, a soup, or the charcuterie board, which, let's face it, is just a plate of meat. I then had the beef tenderloin for my main, or my entree. It was alright, but when you consider some other Disney restaurants, it just wasn't up there. Then finally, tell me somewhere where I wouldn't order dessert again. No word did you just say? I think you'd be wrong. The clock strikes 12, the dessert looks fantastic, but it's all dark chocolate and raspberry. It's just a bit rich, and I don't think they have the best selection of dessert. I'm torn on whether I would eat here again. There's one part of me that if a family member said to me, yes, I want to go here, I would go with them. I love the experience. I love the fact that you can say, hey, I've eaten in the castle. I don't know if I could justify the 2 table service credits or the money again. But overall, I would still tell people to visit. I think the experience is one you must experience. If you're not a big Disney fan and you're just going for the food, well, what are you even doing here? but it might not be for you. Now, I know Taylor hasn't been since she was a child, a very, very long time ago. What do you remember, Taylor?
Actually, Leanne, I don't remember it at all. I want to say I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and there may have been fireworks going on right outside the castle windows when we were eating, but even those memories are a little bit fuzzy, so I can't speak for the food or the experience my one time eating there. Now, as an adult, I do want to return to eat at Cinderella's Royal Table someday. I just haven't made it a priority yet. There are always other restaurants that are higher on my must-do list that just keep pushing Cinderella's Royal Table lower and lower and lower. So in the 7-8 times I have been there as an adult, I haven't eaten at it yet. Part of the reason for this may be because of all the mediocre reviews I've heard about this restaurant. Anything from slow service, food just being okay and not being worth the price has driven me towards other restaurants instead of Cinderella's Royal Table. But the restaurants on my must-do list are dwindling down, so I do see myself going to Cinderella's Royal Table sometime in the future on my next trip or maybe the trip after that, because I do want to experience it. I don't necessarily need to meet characters when I'm dining, but I do find it enjoyable, and the menu looks okay, so my expectations aren't soaring high, but for the price, I hope that I can have a good meal there. Now, Dan, I've heard you say this is a one-time only experience, yet you've been twice?
Yeah, I've been twice, Taylor. After my first experience, I said it was one time only, but things happen, right? My mum really wanted to eat here, so how could I refuse her? So I ate here in both 2017 and 2019, and on both occasions I went for dinner. So my first visit was magical. Eating inside the castle was literally a dream come true. I felt so privileged. I ate here with one of my friends, who actually used to be a Walt Disney World cast member many years before. Before this trip, I had never heard of Cinderella's Royal Table, and so I was super excited to be trying something which for me was quite new. I felt like a kid, and when they gave me the plastic sword, I really did feel like a kid too, you know. We met Cinderella as we entered and then waited for our table. They kind of announce you like a royal guest. It's really quite special. Cinderella's welcome was lovely. We had our photos taken with her with the photo pass photographer and then headed up the winding staircase to the banqueting hall. Just wow. I had low expectations of the food, having read lots and lots of reviews on TripAdvisor before our trip, but the food was really, really good. I had some kind of salad to start. It was fresh, it was crisp, and it was tasty. I then had the beef tenderloin, which came with shrimp and fingerling potatoes, and I have to say, it was really, really quite tasty. And for dessert, I had the Clock Strikes 12 chocolate mousse. It was decent enough, but nothing to write home about. The princesses were great. We met them all except for Jasmine, but when our server came over to check that we met all the princesses and we told him that Jasmine had passed us by, he went and got her and brought her back to our table, and she was lovely as well. He was a really great, attentive server who really wanted to ensure that as an adult-only party, we still got to meet all the princesses. Now the restaurant was full of kids and families, but they weren't running all over the place, and it wasn't a rowdy place like the Whispering Canyon Cafe. It was actually very, very civilised and very, very serene to sit and eat your dinner inside the castle and have the princesses coming around. We had the Disney dining plan and paid 2 table service credits each for our meal. The food probably wasn't worth 2 table service credits, but the overall experience was worth them all day long. That said, it was probably a one-time only experience for me. I had done it, it was magical, and I was content that I probably didn't need to do it again. Now, I told my mum about this experience, and she thought it sounded absolutely wonderful. When we booked our trip for 2019, it was one of 2 places that she specifically asked to dine at, Raglan Road and Cinderella's Royal Table. So of course we had to go, but sadly on this trip we had the complete opposite experience. The food was just awful. It was like mass-produced food that had just been left sitting under hot lamps for a very long time. I had the scallops, which were cold and kind of small, and really bizarrely served with a whole plate of peas. I then had a pan-seared chicken breast, which came in a leek and mustard sauce, which I thought was a really odd sauce to put with chicken for a start. But when it came, it was barely warm, and the sauce had this really horrible skin on it where it had been sitting for such a long time. And I finished with a peanut butter cake, which was just rubbish. Honestly, for the price of this meal, the food was such poor quality. Our server couldn't have been any less interested in us if she had tried, and the princesses, they just felt really rushed. So this totally ruined my experience of Cinderella's Royal Table. One great experience and one terrible experience. I either caught them on a very off day or things went downhill significantly in just 2 years. Overall, I would say do it, but do it once and do it for the experience. And I would say to pay out of pocket. 2 table service credits are worth about $130. So to use $130 worth of credit for a meal that costs $75 doesn't make too much sense. But do it once, enjoy the magic, and hopefully you will enjoy it like I did on my first visit. So there are our experiences. Please tell us in the comments below whether we have persuaded you to dine at Cinderella's Royal Table on your next trip. Please tell us why.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Did you like it?
Make sure to click thumbs up to let us know.
If you like our channel, please click subscribe. And hit that bell notification icon as well, so you know when the next video lands.
Also, if you are not already a member of our fantastic Walt Disney World Adults Only Facebook group, please join us. The link is in the description below, and we will be continuing this conversation along with many more.
And in the meantime, remember, never grow up.